Okay, let's get across today's main headlines with Sky's political reporter, Cam Reddin. Cam, great to see you always. Negative gearing, it's like a nightmare that keeps coming back to haunt Labor, isn't it?
Yeah, and this won't be the last time it comes back either, I don't think, Erin. Look, the Treasurer has at least come out today and said it was me. I was the one that kicked this off to Treasury to go and crunch the numbers. It's clearly on the table. They're testing the mood on this. It doesn't mean that they'll get there, but clearly there's been a shift here where the government's not been able to get its housing policies through, so they're looking at other options. And I think the big challenge here, Erin, even if Labor doesn't decide to go down the path of negative gearing at this election campaign, the crossbench, if we're in a minority government, is going to be very warm to this. The likes of parties and independents that you wouldn't normally put in the same basket. The Greens want to get rid of negative gearing altogether. Even someone like Di Lee, who's an independent in the lower house, was a Liberal in a former life. Even she has indicated she's open to reform in this area. So if we are in a minority government, there's a very good chance that we'll be revisiting this, even if Labor doesn't advocate for change. You can tell, though, from the language of both the Prime Minister and the Treasurer today that this is now something they're considering. Even if they don't pull the trigger on it, it's very much on the table.
Yeah, they sound absolutely terrified. I heard the opposition leader this morning say that he'd read 4 different versions of what they're doing in 4 different papers, so they might want to get on the same page, I think, Cam. Look, as I mentioned earlier, the Treasurer has touched down in Beijing and there are great concerns over China's economy and how it could hurt ours. What can we expect from this trip?
It is a significant visit, the first by a Treasurer in 7 years. He wants to have a much closer look at how the Chinese economy is performing. It's not doing great at the moment. It's slowing down, which is bad news for Australia because as a result, there'd be less money to go around, potentially fewer exports going from Australia into China. And it's just such a big market for us that the old saying is, if China sneezes, we catch a cold, and there are worries about implications there. So he'll get a bit more of a closer look at that. The other thing we're still waiting for too, Erin, is the final trade tariffs to be removed. Most of them are gone. Yeah. There are still outstanding ones on 2 beef abattoirs, Rock Lobster too. So no movement yet. The government, though, is optimistic they'll be gone by the end of the year.
OK, look, the ACCC has released their supermarket inquiry interim report. What were the main findings, Cam?
Well, people feel like they're getting ripped off, Erin, which I guess is no great shock if you're doing your weekly shopping and you see how much you pay at the checkout. But this particular one, they come at the end, really, of a week where both the major parties have been lining up with baseball bats for the major supermarkets. 21,000 customers were asked to give their opinions and their mood and the assessment of how they thought they were being treated when they did the weekly shop. It wasn't a great assessment. The problem is, though, with Coles and Woolies, they own about 2/3 of the market share. And all major parties and minor ones too want to see competition improve. But what you do about it is such a problem because it's a big country. It costs a lot of money to ship produce around. The government's now trying this mandatory code of conduct, which it thinks will make a difference. The opposition, its real point of difference is looking at divestiture and threatening to break them up. But the obvious challenge there is, does Coles just sell to Woolies? Do they sell to IGA? There are difficulties around this. So, look, it's a bit easy to kick the big supermarkets, I suppose, Erin, but actually improving that competition has eluded governments for some time.
I'd love your take quickly on this, Cam, because I was quite surprised by my initial reaction to this. For some reason, when I heard the reports and what they had purportedly done, I felt hurt. And it's a bizarre feeling. Like a boyfriend had cheated, or it's probably not the right analogy, but I just feel like, I don't know, like it's hard to describe.
Well, there's brand value, isn't it, Erin? I mean, Coles and Woolies, most people, the majority, would live up the road from one of them. And I don't know, I think people feel loyal to one or the other, to be honest, unless they're sort of two sitting right opposite each other. So that one example from this week's really stuck with me, where the allegation was that Woolies had a packet of Oreos. How many people have one of them sitting in the cupboard? $3.50, jacked up to $5, and then it's on sale at $4.50. That's now going to court, obviously, but people do feel bruised by that. We shop there every week. That's a tough one to swallow.
No, it is. I actually forgot to get Oreos, and my daughter, my 6-year-old, did not speak to me on the walk to school this morning, Cam, so that is a good reminder for me to get them. The former First Lady, Melania Trump, has given a very rare television interview. It's her first in 2 years. What did she have to say?
Yeah, she doesn't seem to like her husband's tweeting habits either, Erin, which I thought was quite surprising. She says, look, that might put some people off, but he's a good family man and a good guy. You could really tell from this interview the anger that Melania Trump feels about the way that her husband has been pictured in the media, discussed by his political opponents. And now in the wake of 2 assassination attempts, she really had a chance in a pretty rare interview to express some of that publicly and the anger that she feels about the way that her husband has personally been attacked in this campaign.
Is it really shocking that all this egregious violence goes against my husband, especially that we hear the leaders from the opposition party and mainstream media branding him as a threat to democracy, calling him vile names? They only fueling a toxic atmosphere.
She's, of course, selling a book, so we should hear more from her over the next few weeks, I'd say. Cam, I didn't think we let you out of Canberra, let alone Parliament House. Why are you in Melbourne?
Yeah, they let me out of the Canberra bubble for one day, Erin. Look, as we know, I'm a very neutral. I don't really care about football much at all, but I will be here back in the Swans tomorrow. 17 years a member, and so after the heartbreak of 2022, I'm hoping we can finally bring one home. We've divided the office with Tom Connell's Brisbane scarf over one side, and I've packed the desk out all week. So we'll see if he talks to me on Monday. Who knows? We'll find out. But hopefully the Swans get it done tomorrow. My
grandpa started following South Melbourne when they were South Melbourne, and he could either pay and get in or he could sneak in and buy a pie. He loved the Swans, but I'm a Brisbane Lions fan, Cam, so I have to disagree with you there. Thank you so much, Cam. Really appreciate it. Enjoy the game.